noon hour is here.
Check it out.
And you're locked on to Utah's highest rated, most listened to sports radio station.
It's my station. It's my station.
This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hey, let's get it. Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. It is a Monday, a jam-packed, holy smokes, what haven't we talked about already today? It is Jazz Media Day. You just heard from Will Hardy on with Jake and Ben. Lloyd and I were out there this morning. It was really cool to see people people start coming back in. I took a bunch of videos. I put them up on my Twitter account. And then you've been breaking down all things BYU and Utah, and Utah State.
Yes,
and
busy.
So we got basketball covered. We got football covered. We got everything. A veritable smorgasbord, if you will.
We're jam-packed, and this week's going to be no different. BYU getting ready for West Virginia. Utah State's got to lick their wounds, and they've got a bye week.
They've got a bye week, much-needed bye week.
They got a bye week to lick their wounds, get a couple of tackles healthy, hopefully. Have you heard anything on Eichhorn?
I've not heard anything on Eichhorn. He was in crutches after the game.
It's too bad because he was playing good.
Yeah.
He was playing much better.
Much better.
Yeah,
Yep.
I thought that the offensive line was playing much better. And then Utah gets an opportunity to lick their wounds a little bit. No Kyle Whittingham today, huh?
No Kyle Whittingham.
All right. But
enjoying the bye week.
But we get Bronco here in about 18 minutes. Which
good.
I was, with a bye week and Bronco's love of doing media, I really felt like Bronco would take the week off, which he would be well within his rights to do on a bye week. But no, he's like, yeah, let's go.
Thank you. Thank you, Bronco.
I don't know if it was Doug Hoffman twisting his arm or if it was Bronco out of the goodness of his heart, but I'm looking forward to chatting with him.
Well, I spent all morning trying to understand how Colorado got a 14-0 lead on BYU, and then understanding how BYU made the comeback to get the win and walk out of Colorado with the W. And I'm unable to send out BYU film review. People want the details. I'm not going to give you details. I just am unable to do it. So all I can do is give you what I see. I can give you some tweets. I give you a still frame here and there. But I could definitely give you everything I see.
Well, and that's the thing. I was following you on Twitter, and I knew you were hurting a bit because I can tell you wanted to really take a deep dive into it.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to do right now.
Yeah, because I think BYU fans deserve it.
This is, arguably one of the best teams they've had in a while, off to a great start with an incredible defense and a, burgeoning superstar quarterback.
Yeah. And BYU fans show up.
Yeah.
They are locked in right now. And I would love to just show them a thing or two. It's hard to get those clearances.
Yeah.
So we will just move on with what I see, and I can give you some of those details.
But this is why I love chatting with you. Well, look, I'll chat with you at 1 a.m. on a Saturday in June for an hour just because that's the kind of relationship we have. But I love getting you on the air on Monday because I know you spend so much time on Sunday night and Monday morning going over all the film and presenting a story that a lot of us, we know what we see, but you see things at a different level and a different insight. That's why you're the best football analyst in the market. And frankly, it's not even close because not only can you analyze at a different level, but you can explain it that all of us can understand.
Well, I'm excited to kind of give BYU fans the insight and the vision of this Colorado game. Some of the concerns, because you got to have the concerns, and you need to square those things away against West Virginia, and then it'll ramp up a little bit at Arizona before you get to your rivalry game. But there are definite areas that need to be cleaned up. But there's some good things here, too.
Let's get to it. Starting lineup, Hans Olsen, Scott Gerard. BYU gets the victory. Let's break it down right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This is Hans and Scotty G.
Let's go.
The lineup is set, and it's time to kick off the show with the biggest topic of the day. This is the starting lineup on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
It's going to be Miller again. Keeps it. Plows his way into the end zone. Touchdown, Buffaloes. first and goal. Bachmeier into the end zone. Room service. Chase Roberts. He was wide open. The analytics say go.
You're going to have to take a timeout or take a delayed game.
Bachmeier just got the snap off. Wide open touchdown. Mr. Reliable Roberts. And the Cougars storm back and take a 2-point lead. On the around, that's Cody Hagan. Got a blocker out in front of him. Hagan houses it. Touchdown Cougars. A 32-yard sprint by Cody Hagan gives the Cougars the lead.
So BYU down 14-0 right out of the gate. I was listening to you and Greg on the call driving back from Logan after the flight got in from Vanderbilt, and all of a sudden it's like whew, touchdown, boom, another touchdown, and it's 14-0 before you even are done with your pregame meal, and It's like uh-oh, and you mentioned on the morning after podcast, you're like, yeah, I wasn't too overly concerned.
Not too overly concerned. Definite things that need to clean up. I just sent out this tweet, and after watching everything in slow motion again and kind of going through this game with a fine-tooth comb, I sent out this tweet. In the Kalani Sitake era, I feel like this was one of the most well-managed games by coordinators and Kalani. Adjustments, big decisions, and management. I felt like it was excellent. And what I mean by that is Coach Prime wasn't messing around.
No.
And he did what we talked about all week. He came in with wrinkles. He came in with motivated players. So this is important. Because I think some people that, they get the goggles that are too tinted with whatever color team they're calling for or they represent, they can't see past it. This is really important. Colorado put together a hell of a game plan. Coach Prime had these guys lit. They started this game out angry and blocking their butt off. And a shout out to Xavier Hill, Zarian McGill, and Zy Chrysler. The three interior offensive linemen for Colorado, because they won the matchups on the interior. Great combo blocking on 4 or 5 different defensive tackles that BYU tried to rotate in, and they got movement. And then it was a great game plan with shifted blocking that opened up exterior gaps for Caden Salter to run through, because Caden had his options. And whether it was on the interior, where his interior 3 were getting the block and moving the defensive tackles or allowing gaps with the defensive tackles, or it was taking a blocker in motion and putting him on the outside to extend another gap and giving Caden another gap opportunity on the outside, they just put together a great game plan. So I think it's really important, Scotty, that instead of just sitting here and giving BYU all the props in the world for the great comeback, because it was, I say, hey, Colorado showed up. And that was an excellent game plan until Jay Hill started making his adjustments, until Aaron Roderick started making his adjustments, until Kelly Popinga on the special team started making his adjustments. And then all of a sudden, this game really started to turn, the momentum started to turn. So I just want to give a lot of shout out and love to Kalani Sitake, because I talked about this a little bit in the Sunday morning podcast. You get all the way down to the Colorado 5-yard line, and what would Kalani Sitake in the whatever second offensive drive or third offensive drive, what would Kalani Sitake and Aaron Roderick done in the past on opponent's 5-yard line, 4th and 3?
Kick a field goal.
In the past.
Oh, in the past? Go for it.
They go for it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So who stopped and said, wait a second, let's gather 3 points? I know it'll be 14-3, but let's gather 3 points here. Let's give our guys a little hope, a little boost. We've got a kicker that we know will make this, a field goal team that we know can block this up. Let's put 3 points on the board and let's start to figure this out. I think in the past, I think they would have called a fly sweep or a keep, or they would have tried to have the true freshman make the decision instead of the veteran kicker come in and just knock it through for 3 and say, all right, there we go. Now we're down 11. Now what are we going to do? Everything from that call all the way to the call on the punt and pin at the end of that game. I don't know. Kalani in the past, in that moment, I think he probably rolls Will Fairley out for 3 points to give them a 6-point lead. And what does that do for you? Because the likelihood, this is how I see the game playing out. The likelihood would be Will Farron kicks it. Let's just say he makes it. For the sake of conversation, he could miss it. He missed a 55-yarder.
Yep.
But let's say he makes the 51-yarder. Well, then you're up by 6. Well, Colorado touchdown wins it. And they still got a minute and a half or 2 minutes. And there were times where BYU could not stop them. They couldn't stop the run. They couldn't stop the pass. They couldn't stop anything. So you kick off, give Colorado an opportunity for a return. It'll probably be out of the back of the end zone. So you give them a touchdown back, you bring them up, and they get a pretty decent field start. And now you give them an opportunity to go for the touchdown from their down and distance, from their field position. And, they got all this hope and excitement. Instead, you go punt and pin, trusting that your punter isn't going to put this in the end zone, which, by the way, I watched a punt and pin in the, what game was it? I think it was Green Bay, Dallas last night. I think it was the Sunday night game. There was a punt and pin.
Oh, where the died at the 1 yard line? The Green Bay downed it?
Yes. I think that was the play. So that's the moment. Instead, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my 3-point lead. I'm going to put you in a very precarious situation. Nobody, and I've played offensive line. I hate being inside the 5-yard line as an offensive lineman. I hate it because I know if I miss my block, if I jump off sides, anything, it's going to be a safety.
Yeah. Or even if I get called for a hold.
And as an offensive coordinator, my play calling goes down to like 2 or 3 plays. I have no room to work. So now what I did, so we're going to leave the 3 points on the board. I'm going to put you in the worst possible situation I can put you in, and now we get to dictate field position, down and distance. We get to dictate our defensive calls because now my defensive playbook, when I've got you inside the 5, Scotty, my defensive playbook opens wide up.
Oh, yeah.
I can do pretty much anything when I've got you inside the 5. I could blitz you, or I could make you think I'm blitzing you, so everybody tightens down their gaps, and then I drop coverages, and I put myself in zones, and now I'm looking for pick 6s like you saw the week before against ECU. It's a mess, and you make that call. That's great game management.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Scotty, does that not feel different than game management we've seen in the past?
It does feel very un-Kalani-like. You're right. The punt and pin, the kick the field goal instead of go for it. Kalani loves to go all in on a lot of things. And this feels like, you know what? No, I trust my defense. I trust all these other aspects. I am trusting everybody else to do their job. I'm trusting my punter to do his job. I'm trusting my field goal kicker to do his job.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people could say, well, that means you don't trust your offense or it's a knock on a freshman quarterback. No, I think it's actually the opposite. I think they're showing a lot of trust in the offense. Let's take the 3 because we know we're going to be down here a couple more times and add to this point total. So, let's get our 3 now because we know we're going to be eventually scoring more touchdowns down here. So let's come away with points.
And look how important those 3 points were.
Absolutely critical.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely critical.
Those 3 points were gigantic. So you're right. Everything from trusting Vanderhaar, the punter, because in that position, as a punter, you know how difficult that is? You're inside your own 50.
Yeah.
And if you punt this thing into the end zone, it's a 13-point net gain. That's trash. So, but in your mind, you're like, I want to put enough on this to get it inside the 10, because anything outside the 10, it just feels like wasted motion. So, you're trying to put enough foot on this. So Vanderhart puts just enough foot on it. And big shout out to Cody Hagan. Cody Hagan's, he's lined up at the bullet position, and he just makes a wide loop knowing that this is going to be a high arcing punt, and gets right under it at the 4 to be able to stop that thing from going in the end zone. It's just great execution. And it took all of those things to get out of Colorado with a win.
Yeah.
And people might look at that and say, well, Colorado's not a good team and this is not a good win. No, I disagree. I think in this game where Coach Prime was ticked off, motivated from an embarrassing bowl loss, and by the way, Coach Prime, I think he's got a load of pressure on him. Did you see his sideline?
Yeah.
He's got The Rock. What's his name? Something Johnson?
Dwayne.
He's got Dwayne Johnson standing right behind him. He's got like 4 or 5 other big-time movie stars that are on his sideline that are, cap stip low, and they're just all kinds of excited to be seen. And he does that for a reason. He wants this to be old-time USC.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
when Pete Carroll had old-time USC with Will Ferrell and Snoop Dogg and had all the pressure, but then he had the Reggie Bushes and the Matt Leinerts of the world, and it was this massive show that shot USC into the stratosphere. That's what Prime's trying to do, but his team's sloppy. But not in this game.
Nope, not at all.
He had them ready.
Yeah. Hans and Scotty, Bronco Mendenhall is going to join us coming up here in about 7 minutes from right now, right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Looking for the latest on the Jazz, Utes, Cougars, and Aggies? Yeah, we've got you covered. This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G on 97.5, the Sports Zone.
Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. We're going to chat with Bronco Mendenhall, head coach at Utah State, here in just a moment.
Man, I thought it was a heck of an effort. And I thought the start of that game couldn't have been any better. I thought that was a really big signal that this Utah State team is good, and they're ready, and they are going to compete in the Mountain West Conference at the highest level. That stop in that stadium, and then that drive to open that game up.
Yeah.
It's one of those few times where you're like, all right, clock's expiring.
We're done here.
Game's over.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks for the 5 minutes, but we're going to call this game, because in that moment you'd have been like, oh, Utah State's the best team on the field by a mile.
Yeah.
Because the stop was awesome and the calls were great. And then watching Kevin McGivern on those first play calls, just boom, boom, boom. He knew exactly where he wanted to go and what they could exploit in that Vanderbilt defense. Now, Vanderbilt's got the athletes.
They do. They've got the athletes in a big way, and this is not your father's Vanderbilt team. That team is loaded with talent, and it'll be interesting to see what they do here in the back end of their schedule.
One of the most athletic offensive lines I've ever seen.
Yeah, and that quarterback is incredible. Joining us now, he is the head coach of the Utah State Aggies, Bronco Mendenhall, joining us on a Monday on a bye week. And, Coach, we can't thank you enough for coming on a bye week. We know you're crazy busy with recruiting and everything else, but now that you've had a chance to look at the film, what jumped out at you at your team's performance in Vanderbilt?
A lot of things. So first of all, Vanderbilt is a good football team. Their execution, their precision, the command of the offense that the quarterback has, the offensive system, how long that quarterback has been in it. It's clear that they're faster and they execute more cleanly than many teams that we'll face. Quarterback's really difficult to sack. There's a good supporting cast around him. And there were probably 3 plays in the game that determined maybe 21 points. And there was kind of a cause of separation. So their execution outlasted ours. It was cleaner, more consistently. And we made a run at the end, too little, too late, and just too many big mistakes along the way to come up with the victory. But lots of things learned in terms of their execution exposed anything for us immediately that wasn't on point defensively. And offensively, they were our offense. Their offense was, or their defense was top 20-ish, and man, very effective. And we had bits and stretches where we moved the ball really consistently. So, plenty of things positive to take away. Also, lots and lots and lots of things to work on to leverage through a bye week before we go into conference play only.
You couldn't have wiped the smile off my face in the first minutes of this game. Fantastic stop. Fantastic. And then such a great drive. Take us into the first stop defensively and that first drive and how you guys saw that potential of what your team could do.
Yeah, so during the week we changed up practice. I didn't like the way we started versus Texas A&M. It wasn't until about the third quarter that it seems like we found any rhythm and confidence to play. And so we really manufactured stressors during the week with the intent to get the lead. And so defensively, we were on point exactly with what to do and how to do it, knew where the ball was going, it called the exact right coverage, executed that really well, and forced them to punt. Mind you, they've only punted 5 times in their first 4 games total. And so they're a difficult team to make punt. And so that was a really nice start to the game that had been practiced and planned for. Our offense then was super consistent. And really, we held pretty dang good right about till 6 minutes before halftime where we still had the lead. And then some miscues started on our part.
You know, you talk about individual moments, and people look at the score of the game and think, oh, well, that got away from you. But, you mentioned 2 or 3 plays, and I thought that you had weathered the storm a little bit. You took a few haymakers and went down and scored that touchdown to make it 28-21 with just a few seconds left, and then give up that long run to give up that field goal. Did that take a little bit of the wind out of your sails going into halftime?
Oh, sure. And the first, it started with, so our intent was to squib to one of their linemen, and to where the ball would just be downed automatically. We wouldn't have to cover the kick, and they'd still be possibly 29-yard line-ish to start. And so I approved that approach in terms of squibbing, and we don't squib it well. They get the ball on the 39 and then have a chance to run 2 plays, one with a giant scramble and kick the ball with time running out. And so that 3 points stung. But again, it was something I approved. Strategically, I thought it would work, and we didn't execute it very well. And so those are the kind of things, man, that you live and learn for sure.
Coach, it feels like this offensive line is just getting really thin. Saw Jake Eichhorn go down, broke my heart. I'm a big fan of that kid. Absolutely love the work that he put in for you through the offseason and getting ready for this season. And Trey Anderson was not available in this game. Talk a little bit about the offensive line depth, how thin it is, and what you feel like you might get back or can do now in the bye week.
Yeah, so I think we'll get both Jake and Trey back, which will be great. And so we have a true freshman in Kelly. And he played tackle for us. He's played guard. He's played a little bit of center, about 150 snaps. And he's kind of been the glue, and no one really knows who he is. And that's great because when he comes in, you don't know who he is, meaning that he's doing his job.
Yeah.
Right? There's not a mismatch, and we're not having to overcompensate or really compensate it anyway. And who would have thought that his role would have been kind of the glue offensively for us to have our line patch together through 5 games. So he's been just a super bright spot. But, yeah, it looks like both Jake and Trey have a chance to be back by the time we play Hawaii, which will probably be the first healthy O-line since our opener.
Wow. When you look at that road trip going to Hawaii, you look at the health of your team as well. I mean, you probably couldn't schedule a better time for a bye week than what you have right now.
Man, that it seems like it right now. So if the health of the team recovers as is expected with this week and next week, it's really about as good as you can do. And there's a 3-game conference stretch and then another bye and then the final 4-game stretch in a conference that looks to me like it's completely wide open. It just seems like everyone is about the same. And so health, momentum, execution, confidence down the stretch is really going to be important.
So, Coach, Scotty coming in said that this is not your dad's Vanderbilt, and I will say this is not your dad's Hawaii Rainbow Warriors. Yeah. I watched a lot of the Stanford film getting ready for the BYU color call, and it was really impressive. That quarterback is tough as nails, and now they're 4-2. They destroy a good Air Force team. They just lose by a fingernail to Fresno State. So talk a little bit about who this Hawaii team is.
Yeah, I really like them. So Tim's done a really nice job, and I forget if this is year 4 or 5 for them, but their defense is playing really well. Offensively, they run it a little bit more than you would expect. But their quarterback debuted against us last year at New Mexico, and his first throw, he throws a hole shot into 3 deep with double-rolled corners. Normally you throw that in 2 deep. He throws it in 3 deep and completed it for about 18 yards to open the game, and I was like, oh. Okay. So super live arm, really fast, really active, and yeah, he's a good player. So, and they're a capable team anywhere, but anytime you travel to the island, they're better. And so the games you've mentioned are relative. Our game against Air Force, the score was similar to that of Hawaii versus Air Force. Boise's score against Air Force was similar to ours. So you can start having some comparisons. They're not perfect, but enough just to kind of be intriguing as you're trying to gauge how you might match up.
I've seen different philosophies on bye week. Some guys or some coaches give their team, the Monday through Wednesday off. Some people backload it into the back end of the week for that time off. How do you approach it? Is it pretty standard for you, or do you change it year to year?
No, year to year and team to team and health in the team specific. Right now we're acting like we're playing this Saturday. So it'll be a normal Monday through Thursday for us. So the coaches are working as if we're playing Saturday. Players will work as if we're playing this Saturday, other than we won't do anything Friday or Saturday. Obviously Sunday's off. And then we'll go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, departing Thursday. And so, yeah, we're business as usual as it's a game week and preparing for the final stretch with the players we have to in the conference race.
Is there also you're always recruiting. There's never a downtime for recruiting, especially now. But is there an opportunity to catch up in that regard during a bye week?
Yeah, the coaches, again, after our practice Thursday night, they'll all leave and be gone for the weekend. With specific targets, existing needs, and players that we've already identified. And then, again, Monday usually will be the equivalent of a Tuesday practice, and then et cetera, right? So when we leave on Thursday, it's like a Friday. It's really difficult once you're there to get anything productively done. And so that what you just mentioned is part of it, too, the recruiting plan.
Hey, Coach, I wanted to ask you specifically about Carson Tujia. He was a guy that I saw a couple of times against Vanderbilt in the backfield or fighting into a pretty solid block to get a tackle. How good is he playing for you right now in the defensive interior?
Yeah, it's really, really fun. So Carson, for our listeners, is the son of my former line coach at both BYU and Virginia, Garrett Tujia, who's the offensive line coach at North Carolina State. Carson's sister is my personal assistant. Her name is Summer. And so Carson transferred to us from BYU. He was a walk-on player there. And, probably number 9 or number 10 or maybe number 11 in their depth. And simply by work ethic alone, he's come and just carved his way and battled to where he's starting for us now and having a pretty magical college experience where he's playing more football than he would ever have considered and sooner elsewhere, contributing to the team and great relationships and exhausted at the end of every game because he's playing, which is a strong message to any of the high school players or parents out there. A lot of kids can go watch, and you can watch 1, 2, and 3 years and maybe make more money, but not be fulfilled. And so there's some pretty strong choices that exist in terms of, and playing's a lot more fun than watching. And Carson is having a great experience.
Who's working with your interior D tackles, Coach? Because it was a lot of really good techniques that I was seeing from 2J too.
Yeah, so Dante Wilkins he's my defensive line coach. He was a nose tackle for me at the University of Virginia and team captain. And Dante's exceptional, and not only as a person, but a technician and a motivator and recruiter. So rising star in the profession, and our defensive line are lucky to work with him.
I hope you don't mind me sharing this story, but I talked to Dante a little bit, and he said that he was floating around a bit and wasn't exactly sure where he wanted to be or what he wanted to do. And he said he got a phone call from you and said, "Hey, let's get you on the right track. I need you out here. And he's like, yes, sir, coach. And you could, it was funny because it felt like that coach-player mentality kind of felt like you said, hey, I need you. And he's like, all right, I'll run through a wall for you. Let's go. What's that like to have those former players have that relationship with those guys?
It's just like you mentioned, even though they're my coaches now, they still act like I'm their coach. And it's a really interesting and fun dynamic. So we don't have, any issue with alignment or motivation or all being on the same page because they're still kind of bridging the gap between young professional and former player of mine. And so they call me coach as if they're players, but even though, right, they're young leaders in their own right now, but it makes the organization fast. It makes it fun. It makes it aligned. And it's, from my standpoint, super fulfilling that I get to continue to be involved in their lives now that they're young and married and raising their own kids. And, in the professional world, pretty cool from my perspective to be part of that.
Well, Coach, appreciate your time again. We can't thank you enough for hopping on during a bye week, and look forward to catching up with you again a little bit later on in the week.
All right. Thank you both. See you later.
See you, Coach.
There he is, Bronco Mendenhall, head coach of Utah State. And it was funny. I'm glad you brought up or asked him about the coach because Coach Wilkins, fascinating guy, and you would love to chat with him.
Yeah, I through the whole recruiting process, I don't know if I ever met him.
And he was a nose guard with him at Virginia, and his first year or his last year at Virginia was Bronco's first year, and they, record wise, they weren't very good. I think they were 2-10. I think Bronco's first year at Virginia, and then but he's like, I only needed 1 year with him to know that I wanted to be aligned with this guy as much as I possibly could.
How cool is that?
And
that's a cool story.
And so when Coach calls him up and says, hey, I need you on my staff, he's like, all right, where? Let's go.
Well, if I could throw a suggestion out there for Utah State, their bye week, get your corners and your pass rush ready.
Yeah, because the kid from Hawaii is no joke.
Yeah, get your corners and your pass rush ready because you don't want to give this guy time.
No.
Make sure you're rushing lanes the way you're supposed to rush lanes, too, because he'll destroy you with his feet. But he can destroy you with his arm.
Yeah, 457 yards against Air Force.
Yeah.
And that was, by the way,
I can't remember how many touchdowns, but a lot.
And that was not on the islands either. That was in Colorado Springs, where traditionally the old MO is Hawaii comes to the mainland and they struggle. Well, not on Saturday they didn't.
And that Fresno State game was the thinnest of margins. Mm-hmm. Fresno barely pulled that game out.
By the way, he's right about the Mountain West. Every team could win right now.
Yeah. It's a lot of good football.
Yeah. Maybe throw San Jose out of the mix. But other than that, I mean, New Mexico, put it on New Mexico State, and they got a crowd. They got like 35,000 people to that game. So, yeah. Good conference for sure. 12:52, Hans and Scotty coming up next. What you may have missed straight ahead right here on The Zone.
Number one. Miss any part of the show? Every moment of every show is available in podcast form by searching Hans and Scotty on your favorite podcasting platform or online at KSLSports.com. This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. What you may have missed right here on The Zone.
Scotty, are you starting to feel your age at all?
Every moment of every day, yes.
Because there was a time where you and I could go off on a game weekend and zero sleep, go from Friday until Sunday. Hell, there were times we were doing, but before anybody even knew or cared about this Sunday morning podcast, you weren't even sleeping. You were traveling through the whole night. You'd get home, and then we'd record it at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yep.
Because I was just getting done with post-game, and we would record this thing, and we'd be all right.
You'd be fine. Yeah, it's just recent, too.
It's just recent.
Yeah, like 2 years ago, I felt fine. 3 years ago, felt great. Like, I would travel. I remember I did an overtime game at Fort Collins, Utah State and Colorado State, and my old boss, old Jefe Castro, had me at a 9 a.m. meeting the next day. And he's like, you got to be at this meeting. So I couldn't find any airplane to get me back home. So I drove to Fort Collins, called an overtime game that got over at midnight, drove through the night so that I could make it to this meeting, and then did the show immediately after with like zero sleep.
Seriously,
And it was like,
I remember that.
I was like, fine, whatever. We're good.
I totally remember that.
I wouldn't be able to do that now.
But I'm just telling you that stop giving BYU 8:30 kicks.
You got a 6 against Arizona.
It's a little better. That's a little better.
Yeah.
But these 8 o'clock kicks.
Oh, yeah.
And plus, it's just burying BYU back east.
Yeah, it is.
You know, we all sit here and make up all these excuses. I mean, BYU moved to number 23 in the AP poll, but we make up all the excuses. Well, when they're playing at 8:30, when the kickoff is 10:30 back east, by the time you get to halftime, you're 1:30.
Oh, yeah.
Back east. If you're trying to watch the finish of the game back east, you're looking at 2:30.
You want no part of that.
No,
Oh, come on. Those are real football fans back
No,
east. They're
no.
watching.
Honestly,
if they're under 20, if they're under the age of 30, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But I don't blame a voter at all for not watching, because once you're out there and it gets to be that time, and like, look, when 10:30 rolls around, my kids make fun of me, but I'm like, I'm out. Like, you guys stay up as long as you want, but I'm out. Just don't break anything or make a pipe bomb or anything. Like, just I got to go to bed. So,
well, and you
do
know,
as I say, not as I do.
Shut up.
and you know, as we get older and the night goes on and we're doing post game, you know, I get punchy.
Yeah.
And I made a joke that did not go over well.
Yeah. Well, I even heard in the pregame, as you guys are wrapping up pregame, you made reference to something. Greg's like, well, you have to be listening to the whole show to understand that joke.
In the pregame.
Yeah. And I can't remember what you said, but Greg was like, well, that was a reference to something we discussed a few segments ago. So that's why you need to listen to the whole show to really get some of the jokes.
Yeah, the post game one didn't go over. So.
There's nothing like a swing and a miss with Greg, huh?
Mitch laughed.
Oh, well, there you go. You got that. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.